All right, guys, we're going to read part two of the necklace. And remember, we just had a big situation. Matilda Luisel just lost the necklace after having the time of her life. So let's make a prediction. How will the Luisels solve their problem? Here we go.
They searched in the folds of her dress, in the folds of her wraps, in the pockets, everywhere. They found nothing. He asked, "Are you sure you still had it when we left the ball?" "Yes. I felt it in the hallway of the ministry." "But if you had lost it in the street, we would have heard it fall. It must be in the cab." "Yes, most likely." "Did you get its number?" "No." "What about you?" "No." They looked at each other in shock. Finally, Luisel got dressed again. "I'm going to retrace our steps on foot to see if I can find it," he said. And he left the house. She slumped in her chair in the cold room, her mind a blank. Her husband returned around 7 o'clock. He had found nothing. The next day, he went to the police station, to the cab companies, and anywhere there was the slightest hope of finding it. He placed an advertisement in the paper offering a reward. She spent the whole day waiting, feeling completely hopeless in the face of such an awful disaster. When Loisel returned that evening, his face was pale and lined. He had learned nothing. "You must write to your friend," he said. "Tell her that you broke the clasp of the necklace and that you are having it repaired. That will give us time to think." She wrote the letter at his dictation. By the end of the week, they had lost all hope. Loisel, who looked like he had aged 5 years, declared, "We must replace the necklace." The next day, they went to the jeweler, whose name they found inside the case. He looked through his records. "I did not sell this necklace, madame," he said. "I only supplied the case." Then they went from one jeweler to the next, trying to find a similar necklace. Both of them felt sick with worry and anguish. In a shop in the Palais Royal, they found a string of diamonds which looked exactly like the one they were seeking. It was worth 40,000 francs. They could have it for 36,000. They begged the jeweler to hold it for them for 3 days. He agreed to take it back for 34,000 francs if they found the other necklace before the end of February. Loisel had 18,000 francs that his father had left him. He would borrow the rest. He borrowed, asking 1,000 francs from one man, 500 from another, 100 here, 50 there. He signed promissory notes and made deals that could ruin him with all kinds of people. He compromised the rest of his life, agreeing to pay back money even when he wasn't sure that he would be able to do it. Then, terrified by a future of anxiety and black misery, he went to get the new necklace and placed 36,000 francs on the jeweler's counter. When Madame Loisel took the necklace back, Madame Forestier said coldly, "You could have brought it back sooner. I might have needed it." She did not open the case, as her friend had feared. If she had noticed the substitution, what would she have thought? What would she have said? Wouldn't she have thought Madame Loisel was a thief?
All right, guys, here's part three. Will the Luisels' debt change Mathilde?
Madame Loisel learned what it was like to live in poverty. She did it, however, with a sudden heroism. The dreadful debt had to be paid. She would pay it. They dismissed their maid and moved into an attic under the roof. She learned to do all the heavy housework chores, all the hateful duties of cooking. She washed dishes, wearing down her pink fingernails by scouring grease from pots and pans. She scrubbed dirty linen, shirts, and cleaning rags, which she hung on the line to dry. She took the garbage down to the street each morning and carried up the water, stopping at each floor to catch her breath. Dressed like a peasant woman, she went to the fruit store, the grocer, and the butcher with a basket on her arm. There she argued for each sou of her tiny funds. Each month, some bills had to be paid, and others were renewed to give more time to pay. Her husband worked in the evenings for a shopkeeper. At night, he copied documents for 5 sous a page. And this went on for 10 years. After 10 years, they had finally paid back the whole debt. Madame Loisel looked like an old woman now. She had become hard, rough, and coarse like a peasant. With her hair uncombed, her skirts askew, her hands red, and her voice loud, she slopped water over the floors and scrubbed them. But sometimes, when her husband was at the office, she would sit by the window and think of that party long ago, when she had been so beautiful and so admired. What would have happened if she had not lost that necklace? Who knows? Who can say? How strange and unpredictable life is. How little there is between happiness and sorrow. Then one Sunday, she went for a walk on the Champs-Élysées to relax from the week's work. Suddenly, she noticed a woman taking a child for a walk. It was Madame Forestier, still young, still beautiful, and still charming. Madame Loisel felt a rush of emotion. Should she speak to her? Yes, of course she should. And now that she had paid everything back, she would tell Madame Forestier the whole story. Why not? She went toward her. Hello, Jean. The other did not recognize her, and seemed surprised that this common woman would speak to her so familiarly. She stammered, "But, Madame, I don't recognize." "You must be mistaken." "No, I am Mathilde Loisel." Her friend cried out, "Oh, my poor Mathilde! How you have changed!" "Yes, I've had a very hard time since I last saw you. I've had many troubles, and all because of you." "Because of me? What do you mean?" "Do you remember that diamond necklace you lent me to wear to the party at the ministry?" "Yes." "What about it?" "Well, I lost it." "What do you mean? You returned it to me." "I gave you another one that was just like it, and it took us 10 years to pay for it. You can imagine that wasn't easy for us, since we had nothing. Well, it's over now, and I am glad." Madame Forestier stopped short. "You say that you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine?" "Yes. You never noticed then? They were exactly alike." She smiled with proud, simple joy. Madame Forestier, quite moved, took Mathilde's hands in her own. Oh, my poor Mathilde. Mine was an imitation. It was worth only 500 francs at the most.